Alright, I only got one more step to do. I gotta highlight the gold. And then these guys are ready. I would call this tabletop plus. I think they're, I spent a little more time on the shading and highlighting of them. Alright, just to be clear, this is the before, which doesn't look a whole lot different, but I'm going to be airbrushing the lightning claws and then adding some special effects, doing a little bit of edge highlighting, and just cleaning them up a little bit. I was able to get almost done. So, I get online to compile this comment, and the first thing I read is Willie Jones, 6466, writes, I really enjoy this is the only comment he didn't like. Because I usually like all the comments. If you send a comment, it's, I don't know, it's just like sort of my thing. I put a heart on it, even if you disagree with me. And it was from Indigo Cloud, and I'll touch on his comment later. But it's 9 hours ago. 9 hours. Like, oh, he didn't agree with you, see? Guys, look, let me explain something to you. I have 3 shifts I'm covering right now. I have 5 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon until I think they go to 2 in the morning. And then there's a 3rd shift that overlaps, and that's from 6 in the afternoon until, oh God, 3 in the morning. So I have 3 shifts, 3 different jobs, no other safeties. I'm on call for all 3 of them, which means that if I get a call, I have to respond to it. So am I working 24 hours? No. I mean, like, I can come home and chill and work out and paint figurines, but then I have to pop in. So I'm constantly in and out for all day, all night. And if I get a phone call, if somebody gets injured, I have to respond. I have no choice. We are bringing some more employees in to staff these jobs up next week, hopefully. But until then, I'm a one-man army. My wife said, is that legal? Can they do that? Well, when you get to a certain level of management, I mean, it's not whether it's legal or not. It's whether or not you're willing to do it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I could say no. I could say, no, I'm only going to work 8 hours, and you can't force me to, and they can't. But what they can do is promote somebody else or give somebody else the job. And so it's kind of like, it's one of those, I don't know, you get to a certain level, there's an expected level of give and take. And then the trick is to set a healthy boundary so that people do respect that you have a life. I mean, I got kids, and I like to spend time with my family, and I do like to do my hobbies and all that. But it's we go through stretches where sometimes work is the priority and you just need to buckle down. But then that's often tempered by periods where there's not much going on, and I can kind of come and go as I pleased. You know, a month ago I wasn't working hardly any hours, and it was awesome. So it's give and take. It all balances out in the end. The point I'm trying to make is I will get to your comments. I actually do read every single one of them. It just sometimes takes me time. It might take me a day or two, but I promise you I will get to you. I will absolutely respond. I don't know what to tell you. It's like, dude, he's like, I gotcha. I'm like, good Lord. Do you people live online? Do you just sit there on your laptop? Do you never get off? Like, do you carry it around with you? Is it in the bathroom? Do you shower with it? Like, I don't know. Like, I watch my kids, and they walk around the house with their little devices. And I'll ask my daughter to, like, do the dishes, and she's literally in the kitchen, like, trying to put a dish away with the phone set up on something. I'm like, well, get off the damn thing and do your chores. Just shut it off for a minute. Like, come on, man. What am I doing as a dad? You know, as I was doing this experiment, transitioning from strictly powerlifting to introducing some of the hobbies that I'm into, as I'm creating both of the content for both, I am noticing some interesting things. Both, we'll say groups. This is a generalization, and it's not aimed at anybody specific, and it does even include me. But both groups suffer from, we'll say, ego issues. Like in the lifting side of the community, like there's frail egos, and if anybody approaches them in strength or appears to be better at the thing they're good at, wildly defensive and start like, you know, acting out, if you will. Start like slandering you and like throwing shade videos or calling people out, or it's weird. You'll see it. It's a big, strong men that suffer from extreme self-esteem issues, and for me personally, you could say I probably have a little bit of body dysmorphia, and I was picked on as a kid, and, you know, whatever. There's that, you can see how that manifests itself, and we all have our idiosyncrasies, and it's interesting if you can get people to be honest and talk about it. You can have some really good conversations about it, and they're usually pretty positive. I'm noticing on the fantasy side of things, Warhammer, tabletop games, video games, that crowd is insecure in a different way. You know, we were maybe picked on and marginalized as kids, and we're that, well, actually group, you know what I mean? Well, actually, you know, we get real sanctimonious, and our opinions are like, if you don't believe what I believe, you know, it's like maybe that stems from an entire life of being, you know, having your opinions disregarded or looked down on. Maybe you were, you know, the kid that wasn't in the best physical shape, or you weren't the prettiest one in school and you didn't get all the girls. You know, so how did we fix that? You know, it's like, we are this group that I'm putting together. I'm noticing we're the weird little subculture that sort of bridges the two. So you go from when I'm interacting with one group, it's like a weird set of mental and anxiety issues that I have to navigate, you know, like a kind of almost passive aggressiveness and just this weird self-defense thing. And then when I go to the other group, I have to navigate those issues. And I was just noticing, it's interesting this morning when I'm talking to each set of people individually, I'm like, wow, man, I'm glad I don't have to deal with that at that group. And then I'm thinking, wow, I'm glad those other people don't, you know, act like this. And it's somewhere in the middle. It's just like, we're all a little, we're not broken, we're bent a little, you know what I mean? Life in its own way has kind of run us through the ringer, and it's like the way that we have taught ourselves to deal with problems is maybe not the most healthy thing in the world. And that's kind of where I come in. I try to, having come to the other side of some of these issues, and I can kind of look at them, and I still have them. I still have the same problems. I still have the fragile ego. I still have the chip on my shoulder. I still look in the mirror and I see that piece of crap that weighs 130 pounds and is 4'11", the kid that got picked last on all the teams. You know, that guy's still there. But the problem is that other people don't see that. So when those issues manifest themselves in real life, people look at me like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Jesus. So it's like you have to really do a lot of self-reflecting to temper that stuff. And I think a lot of you, and seriously, like, read, when you post a comment, read it a few times. Read it and just think to yourself, how is this going to come off? I mean, when other people read this, what are they going to think of me as a person? And, you know, we get focused on, I'm talking to you. But other people read this stuff, guys. You might be going at me personally, but you do understand that other people read this crap, and they're like, most people are like, what the hell's wrong with you, this guy? You know, and that includes me too. I've sent some angry ones here and there. And I wish I could take that back. Yeah. Hey man, we're all progress, not perfection. You know, we're not perfect. All right, so back to the comments. Now, the one I was touching on, Indigo Cloud. Custodes being able to be women strengthens the all-male brotherhood aspect of Space Marines, in my opinion. It highlights the Emperor's implicit trust in them over the Astartes, who for a myriad of reasons are male, one of which being to avoid them overtaking humanity as a superior version of that was actually a concern of his, is that they would overtake humanity. In regards to the Custodes being handcrafted masterpieces of the Emperor's own, lends significantly more trust to them, making female Custodes not a big deal. Retcon was handled terribly, but it's not really an issue beyond that unlike female Space Marines, which would uproot a large portion of the lore and personality. I guess my argument was that both would, just because, I mean, you know, it's always been hammered into our head that if Space Marines were a superhuman, a Custodes was 10 times that, crafted from birth. So you have to imagine, like, if you're getting the Emperor's genetics, you would think that would, on a cellular level, like, my question would be, like, what is that going to look like? It's not necessarily that I have an issue with females being in either. Honestly, I don't care, personally. But what is that going to look like? You know what I mean? Like, and then I have what I would love to see, which is super sexy women in power armor. But that's just me. But one thing we definitely have to be careful of, and I think we're all guilty of this from time to time, is thinking that our opinions and our headcanon is what everybody else thinks, and that their opinions are invalid. Like, if you have an opinion that differs from what I think, somehow I look down on you because you just, oh, how could you believe that? And that even includes the people that I would disagree with on the left. I keep trying to invite them to conversation. I keep trying to invite them to expound upon, some of the stuff they post, and they just refuse. They refuse to go any deeper than surface level, which tells me they didn't really have an argument to begin with. They just kind of showed up to be rude, leave a crappy comment, be spiteful, and then leave. I don't feel that way when I read yours. I do feel that way when I read old Willie Jones's here. Like he was sitting there waiting just to pounce on something, like he's gotcha. Willie's the kind of guy where, like, if he was standing in front of me, I would resist the urge to slap him. Like a nice open palm bitch slap right across the face. Maybe not too hard, but just enough to jar things up and then stare at him like, what are you gonna do? That just happened. And I suspect Willie is not the type of guy that's gonna do much about it. That's my headcanon. It's just an ugly comment. It's unnecessary, and it's just there just to be spiteful. But yours, no, I would say, we disagree on the finer points, but for the most part, you're 100% right. I don't disagree with you. And I commented back and I said, the Stormcast Eternals, which is essentially Sigmar's Custodes, kind of shows that. That's not the issue. The issue was never that they made the change. It's why they made the change. And every time we ask the question why, we're just basically told what our opinions are and what kind of people we are, and just stuff it up your butt. And they essentially just said, we don't care about you, and we don't care that you've been with us for 40, 50 years, and we don't care that you spent thousands of dollars playing our stupid mini games. You just don't matter to us. That's essentially what the the issue is. And then we, as a fandom, we're trying to gatekeep and protect something that's really not ours, and it kind of sucks because when you grow up playing board games, we'll say Monopoly, Risk, Clue, you've got that old board game sitting in your closet and you break it out on family night and you play it. With that, it's not that much different with this. We play amongst friends, but then when you get told by the company that, I guess where it would really matter is especially if you're trying to do competitive play and you do tournaments and things of that nature. But it's just like every other IP. It's like we don't own Star Wars, but we all got upset when they made changes to that. We don't own Marvel comic books, but we got upset when they decided to make everybody bisexual. The list goes on and on and on. It's like as they make these changes, they're not RPs, they're not our stories. We don't own them, but we've purchased them, and it's just like people immerse themselves in fiction. They kind of dive in and they get lost in these little worlds, and then when they make such huge, sweeping, sudden, and real, what's the word I'm looking for? Like terse? Is that right? They make these changes where just kind of like, it's like you hear this record scratch, and it just snaps you out of it, and you're like, what the hell? And then when you ask questions about it, you're told to shut up. Suck it up, Buttercup. Like, what the hell, man? What'd I do to piss you off? Like, why are you so mad at me for having an opinion, Like, Jesus. But, I don't know. I've said that many, many, many times, It's not, the argument's not that they made the change. It's why they made the change. But every new video I make, I have to reiterate that to a whole bunch of new people that haven't seen the old videos. So it becomes kind of a point that's lost in the shuffle. It's like every time I explain myself, and maybe you get it as a person, you go, oh, I understand. I see where you're coming from. The next guy, like, Willie Jones here, will pop on and be like, huh, he's just one of those blah, 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 fill in the blanks, It's tiring. I've noticed that making these videos is tiring. It's tiring responding to all the negative comments. The positive ones are awesome. I've got a bunch of new subscribers. I've met a bunch of cool new friends, and I think you guys are awesome. And it's neat finding people that are like me. We were nerds who got yoked or want to. If you're in the first category, how you doing, brother? If you're in the second category, come on in. We got you. All right, this comment, Airfield, the place to be. Oh, I'm sorry, Anfield. Anfield, the place to be. I need glasses. Dude, don't be afraid that being a, quote, nerd and talk about it will lose followers. People like people being themselves. Keep going strong, man. Yeah, you know, when I say nerd, I really mean that as a term of endearment. You know, what's up, nerds? Oh, man, so when we were on deployment, I was doing comm watch. I was on the USS Comstock LSD 45 cutting holes in the Indian Ocean, and they had me on night watch doing radio communication between the boats. And the only people up was our group, and they were in the little ship's library. If you imagine this little tiny room, got a dog hair stuck to my beard. This little tiny room with the books lined up on the bulkhead and a couple of tables set up in the middle. You could squeeze maybe 20 people in there, but it was like the table took up the entirety of the room. And our guys would be in there. Normally, the normal guys would be in there playing poker. But our guys were setting up Dungeons and Dragons. And a Magic the Gathering. I never heard of this game at this point. I bust in the door and I go, "What's up, nerds?" They all look back at me and I'm like, yeah. What the hell are you guys doing in here? What are you efforts? I can't say these derogatory terms anymore. What are you fill in the blanks doing in here? And I'd sit down and they'd deal me in. They're like, "We're playing Magic the Gathering." What the hell's that? Deal me in like we're playing poker. That's not quite how it works. Really, I had a blast. It was a lot of fun. And then eventually one of the O3s would come in, or so, you know, one of the grunts, you know, jocks come in and they'd make fun of everybody, and which is essentially I think what I was trying to do. That was when I got into like Dungeons and Dragons role playing. We were playing this game called Rifts, and it was really cool, man. I had written this guy up. It was like a cyborg Terminator looking dude, and I even drew a picture of him, and I had this whole thing. Like I dove into it. It was like my second world that I was in while you're in the. You have to imagine when you're on a boat and you're on a Westpac deployment. There's many times where it's just nothing. You're just in the ocean going to wherever you're going, and it's endless, just boredom, especially when you're not during the day doing your duties. So having this like little second world to dive into is really, really neat. I mean, I would often think about it when I was alone in my my coffin rack, and I don't know, that's stuff that like I carried with me, but I never really told anybody, because I always thought that if I said that crap out loud to another normal person, they'd look at me like, "What the hell?" They'd be like, how to repulse a woman in 20 seconds. "Wow, you're kind of cute." "Oh, hey baby, do you like Dungeons and Dragons?" Or she runs screaming. And I found that's not quite how it works. Like, people are actually into this stuff. We just don't know how to talk about it. You know, and now that it's starting to become popular culture, it's like a new issue. Because we're like, it's like the One Ring, you know, "My precious," you know, you're not allowed to infect it. You know, you people picked on us and told us we were losers for years, and now you're trying to ruin it. So there's a bit of that going on, I'm sure, but at the same time, now that it is becoming popular and mainstream, it's almost like there's no choice but there to be changes. You know, it almost has to be if you're going to put it on television where normal people are going to want to watch it and be interested in return the next week. It almost can't be grimdark. You know, like if you read some of the settings, it's really, really, really dark stuff that you just can't have on television for the average person to watch. You know what I mean? They're gonna like be mortified. This is what you're into? You know? So, you know, I'm sure there's a little bit of that. You know, it's tough. It's tough waters to navigate. But the thing that bums me out the most about it is that we can't seem to talk about it. Ever since the COVID shut us down and we all went online and we started forming these little ideological bubbles where nobody talks to each other and we all just antagonize and attack each other, that seems to have carried itself over into every other aspect of online media, where you get these groups that are just ideologically possessed, and no conversations are to be had. There is no middle ground. You either agree with me or you're the enemy, and that seems to be how it really is. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because back in the day, you know, we would sit down and talk, and if you didn't share my point of view, I'd probably make fun of you. You'd say something derogatory towards me or whatever, but we'd just be like, we'd move on. Like, it never, you know, I don't remember ever not being friends with somebody because they didn't vote for the same person I did. You know what I mean? Like, that just, it wouldn't even occur to me. You know, and the differences were slight. You know, if you really look like back in the day, like, what was the difference between a Democrat and a Republican? Were they really that different on most things? No. It was usually states' rights. You know, how much rights should the state control versus the federal government? You know, what is it, the 10th Amendment stuff? That was the big difference between a Democrat and a Republican. And now it's like whether or not you should be chopping the wieners off of 7-year-olds. You know, it's like, whoa, time out. We jumped the shark somewhere. You know, and I'm a Nazi if I question anything. What? I grew up fighting them motherfuckers. Like, and when did that happen? Like, some of the definitions of terms have become quite loose in the last few years, if you know what I mean. Guys call me incels, and meaning it, you're an incel. Well, I'm married, so technically that could be true. Hope she doesn't watch this. Oh, Lord have mercy. Well, I'm going to cut this one short just because I do have to get to work. But no, like, let me guys know what you think. You know, where are you on the spectrum, if you will? Like, where do you fall in? Like, what's your opinions, for or against? I want to hear from everybody. People that are against me, give me awesome, fun comments to make fun of. So, you know, lay them down, baby. All right, I gotta get to work. I will see you guys on the battlefield.